if Iran's response is really substantial, then we may get the war that Netanyahu wants and the U.S. So we're going to talk about something pretty awful, pretty apocalyptic, with a possibility finally of the Samson option being exercised by Israel at the end. So this is nothing to really be hoping for, or this is not a rosy scenario. This is really scary. Yeah, it's possible at the end that America and the world, all the Western world that supported Israel will really learn its lesson, but it can be a really bloody lesson. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but recently Iran said that it may take a long time before they retaliate. They came out with that statement quite recently.
I can see that.
Yeah. So, that's interesting. That could mean a couple of things. I think there's at least a couple of things. One possibility is that it's actually just deception on their part. They're planning to strike soon, but they don't want to announce that, right? They just as soon to have the U.S. and Israel let down their guard. They say, yeah, maybe some months from now, imply that that's what's going to go on, and then you strike right away. That could be what they're doing. Who knows? There's no reason to think that they're going to again tell you the day and the time. They want the other side to be guessing, and they want the other side to guess wrong. But another possibility, that's actually, it was Chas Freeman suggested this. He said that he didn't think that Iran was going to launch missiles at a military base or any kind of military facility in Israel. That's what most of us have been focusing on. He thought that they would probably answer with an assassination. And if that's true, it's actually, when I think about that, might make a lot of sense. When if that's true, that would explain why they maybe are taking their time, because you just have to wait for the opportunity to arrive.
To assassinate Netanyahu?
Well, no, it doesn't have to be Netanyahu. I don't think it would be Netanyahu, but some sort of Israeli official, right? Somebody who's important. And in a way, I think that would, but they have to wait for the opportunity. They have to know that the person's in some place where they can strike him. And that may take, it may be weeks or months before that happens. They're watching, and then, okay, he's there, let's fire. Let's take him out.
Has Iran carried out assassinations before? It doesn't feel like they're...
They have. Okay. Assassinations of Israeli officials, there was actually, like the last time that Iran was associated or was responsible for some kind of terrorist attack, I don't think it was an Israeli official. If it was low-level officials, I believe in Bulgaria, like around in 2010. And it was in response to some sort of Israeli attack. And I think they took out they attacked a bus that was carrying these officials or these, maybe military officers. I can't remember exactly what it was. So they have done things similar, and they may have taken out, higher level officials in the past. But it would make sense. Well, first of all, it would be a true tit for tat and say, okay, you assassinated this guy, we're going to assassinate one of your guys. And it would be hard for the Israelis to pretend that they'd just been attacked. Everybody would know, okay, yeah, you got one, you killed the Hamas official there in Tehran, they got one of yours. And the whole world would see that, and it would be hard for Israel to use this as a justification for launching an all-out war against Iran, because it would so obviously be a tit for tat. And then second, I think it would also, if they get a high-level official, it really would, they really would be carrying out deterrence. Because I don't think these people want to know that they're vulnerable. They're used to being invulnerable, and they say, "Well, hey, we're just used to taking out their guys. We do it all the time. Hey, they can take out Smotrich or Ben Gvir or something like this." It probably would make them think twice, right? I think it would be a deterrence. So it is a possibility, and it makes sense when you think about it. And but it probably will take more time, because you just again have to wait for the opportunity to arise, for one of these people to be in a place where he's vulnerable.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I never even considered that. So you think that's actually a real possibility?
I think it is. I think, again, Chas Freeman's a very astute observer of the Middle East and of these kind of things. And when he first said it, I kind of dismissed it. But later, when I thought about it, especially when Iran made a statement, say, hey, maybe sometime we're going to retaliate, but we'll do it in our own good time. Then I thought maybe that's what they're thinking of. We'll see.
The third possibility is that they are preparing for a real all-out war, and they know that it takes more time. And
Yeah,
the longer they wait, the more psychological damage they're inflicting on
right.
Israel. Netanyahu's been hiding in a bunker now for 3 weeks almost,
Yeah,
right? Like we haven't
right.
seen him. So how long is he going to stay under? They might be reveling in the fact that okay, well
Right. Yeah,
this
we've talked about that. Actually, making Israel wait is also making them suffer, and suffer both psychologically and economically. And let's see, what was I going to say? Yeah, I
Well,
lost
I
my
was
train
going
of
to
thought. Forgive
ask,
me.
do you think there's an issue though if Iran waits too long? Like, how long is too long before?
Yeah.
Like, do they? Is there a problem or why not?
Well, I
Are
think
they?
there is some, obviously there's too long. It has to be obvious that it was a retaliation when it takes place, right? And if Israel goes ahead and it inflicts, new enormities against Iran and its allies, if it assassinates more officials, whatever, it's going to start to look like Iran is simply not capable of deterring, of responding. Yeah, they obviously can't let this go on too long. I don't know exactly what is too long. And also, if they do wait a long time, let's say months, let's say another 2, 3 months, and then they strike, but it is a major strike, whether it's an assassination of let's say, a fairly high level Israeli official, or they take out a military base, then everybody knows what's happened. But if it's something rather minor after 3 months, it's not quite like that. It's a minor official, or it's just a radar station or something like that, then I think people will say, well, that really wasn't anything. That wasn't what was that all about? I kind of forgot.
So do you think if they carry out an assassination, do you think that would leave less room for Israel to escalate? Do you believe
I think
that
so.
that's true?
Yeah, if they say, it's clearly so obviously like equivalent. Okay, you took out this guy, we take out your guy, right?
But then
And then,
but then Israel's just going to try to do it again, though, right?
yeah,
I mean,
well,
like
okay,
do
maybe, yeah, obviously, maybe they will. Again, Netanyahu's hell bent on war. He's reckless. But if you do get a fairly high level official, it is some kind of deterrence. You're looking at each other and say, well, do we want to assassinate somebody else because they might get me next time? It is something.
Yeah,
Possibly,
yeah.
maybe.
With rational actors, but I mean, I just think about it.
Yeah,
I mean, when if this happens, I just feel like it doesn't matter what you do, what Iran does. Israel's going to say, now we got to go to war with Iran, do everything it can, and it's going to try. Maybe they can't get the U.S. involved right away, but they'll do some other provocation,
yeah,
right? You know,
yeah, yeah,
they're not going to stop this, right?
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic here. I just don't see really any off ramp for this right now. I know
yeah.
Tony Blinken's over there right now,
Oh,
trying to do whatever he can to get a ceasefire, and I
oh, that's
hear
a
all
bunch of
these
BS.
talks.
Right, right. That's
Right, right.
nothing. Yeah,
So, can you
it's
explain why you think it's total BS then?
right. Well, first of all, Hamas isn't even there, so I don't know what kind of negotiations are taking place when the other negotiating party isn't there. Mainly because you just assassinated the chief negotiator. This is just a joke. And then it's just that Netanyahu has made it clear again and again that he really has no intention. He's gone out and said it, right? There's not going to be a Palestinian state. Didn't the Israeli Knesset recently pass a law actually criminalizing the whole notion of a Palestinian state? And then, um, yeah, it just seems like every other day, Netanyahu is saying something
Well,
basically that he has no interest in it. He's going to destroy Hamas, and he's not going to be in any way, um, in any way, just he's not going to deviate from that goal. He's fixated on that goal, and um, more than that, um, I'm sorry. Let's see. Well, what was it just that he said the other day? Oh, yeah, it's essentially that, okay, we could have a ceasefire, but one of the conditions is that we can always go back in. And that's just obviously is completely unacceptable to Hamas because, yeah, you have a ceasefire temporarily. Hamas gives up the hostages, you get a prisoner exchange, and then Hamas has no bargaining chips. It's all over, and then Israel can go back in and pummel them and then complete the genocide. I mean,
Right.
these are the things he's saying. So it's just there's obviously it's clear that he's not interested. Eventually, sometimes he plays along, but then what I've heard that recently he's just added after making some sort of seeming to agree to some offer that just might be acceptable to Hamas or got close to it. Then he had piled on a number of new conditions and just reversed and ended up changing the offer entirely. And there's just no reason. The guy is not serious. He has no intention of actually achieving any real ceasefire with Hamas. And anybody who pays attention to what he's saying knows that. And so this whole thing is just charade. It's simply a charade. It's just that Tony Blinken is going through these motions because Biden and Kamala Harris need to be saying, that we're doing what we can. We're just, we're terribly concerned about the Palestinian people, and we're just fighting to make the ceasefire happen. Just trust in us. We're working. We're really close to it. But it's not going to happen. And I think anybody knows. Again, is somebody serious about a ceasefire? Does he assassinate the chief negotiator on the other side? That should just have been the end of it. If you had any illusions, that should have been the end of it. Just forget it. It's not happening. So the only way to deal with a person like that is to know that you have no intention, just like actually Zelensky, I think in Ukraine, has never had any intentions of really negotiating a peace. Well, just accept the reality. Now, the U.S. can't do anything. Well, actually could do something about both these people, because to a great extent, Zelensky is dependent on the U.S. and Netanyahu is entirely dependent on the U.S. We could just lay down the law, but we don't. We just prefer, so we go out and make these statements, right, that, we've got your back, our guarantees, our support of Israel is ironclad. And the Israelis hear that, Netanyahu hears that and say, yeah, right, I know that. You're going to do whatever I want you to do. So why do I need to make compromises? And maybe sometimes I'll play along with it just to make you happy, but I have no intention of doing this. And you know it too.
Yeah, you said Iran wants to avoid a larger regional war, right? I mean, it's just kind of gotten itself back on its feet and is establishing itself as a big regional player and being part of BRICS, and overcame these sanctions. But at the same time, like if they do this an assassination, let's say a tit for tat, and then things cool off between Iran and Israel, nothing changes for the Palestinians. Nothing changes in Gaza or the West Bank. That's just going to keep going on. And you just said, I didn't even know this, that the Knesset made it a two-state solution off the table, illegal. Right. So basically, that's just saying that we will continue this policy of ethnically cleansing the land, which will be through a genocide. These people aren't going to leave their land willingly.
Right. Well, look how all these people talk. It's not just Ben Kvir and Smotrich, is Netanyahu himself. He talks about Judea and Samaria and the Amalek, and this is all the language. It's clear what they're up to. They're not hiding it. They want a greater Israel, and they want a greater Israel that's been purified of the Palestinians, and they can see their chance to do it now. And let's just stop pretending that there's anything else going on.
It's interesting, so because Netanyahu is a secular Jew. You said the people that enacted the Nakba were secular Jews. Right. I feel like if you're a secular person, why do you have this drive to achieve greater Israel? Like, you think you're a secular person, okay, maybe you got that land. Why couldn't you just stick with the 67 lines? Why do you care so much? Even if they say they're secular, it almost feels like there's still a religious element in there that believe that they have some divine right to this land.
Look, there's nationalism can be religious, but it's often secular. And extreme nationalism and chauvinism is like a religious force. You just think, look at the nationalists of the first half of the 20th century. The most famous of which, of course, was the mustachioed Austrian. He was secular. wasn't he? Netanyahu is secular. It doesn't. There's nothing to prevent. Being secular doesn't mean that you're necessarily calm and that you just accept limits and compromises. You can be an extreme nationalist. Netanyahu, that's what he is, and he's an extreme nationalist. I don't think he wants to be remembered as the man who conquered these territories and solve the Palestinian problem. That's where he sees his place in history. He doesn't have to have a particular religious vision to think that way.
Right. Well, you're saying like, we can't hope for war, and war, obviously, I don't want war. War is a horrible thing, but I just don't, if you're dealing with that mentality, it doesn't
Yeah,
seem like there's any solution, right?
yeah.
It's
Well,
just
they may
like,
not.
do we
I think
sit by it?
the Iranians are trying to avoid it, but they may not be able to. Um, one thing though they probably understand is that again, that time is on their side. That first of all, they're much stronger now vis-a-vis Israel than they were, let's say, 10, 20 years ago. And I think that they see this they shift. They see that again. We were talking at the beginning of this program about this new world that is emerging before us, right? The new multipolar world and the end of U.S. hegemony. Well, they see that too. The U.S. is in decline, and with it, the U.S. has been the guarantor of Israel's security. And as the U.S. declines, Israel becomes more vulnerable. And I think actually Netanyahu understands this himself, and that being one of the reasons. It's probably personal career. He knows he's coming to the end of his career. He wants to achieve this greater Israel before he steps off the stage. But also, I think he sees that the U.S. is declining, and these other powers are rising, right? Russia and China and Iran. And yeah, the balance at one time, the balance was very much in his favor, and it's just not so much so anymore. And then in 5 years, things are going to look even worse for him and for Israel. Iran understands this. Now, yeah, they may not be able to wait that long. They may have to engage in a war sooner than they want. Again, it's just that Israel is just so reckless, and Netanyahu is obviously just driven to have a war, and he may get his war. He may get it very soon. It may be months, it may be a year or two. Who knows? But I think he's working hard, and it seems to me like he sees this as his time. It's just after those 58 ovations in the Congress, while Biden is still in the office. He probably has some questions about Kamala Harris. I don't think she's going to be a problem for him, but he knows that he can handle Biden, and he knows that Biden, especially this time, Biden, or I should say Kamala Harris, is vulnerable because she can't cross him before the election. That could give Trump a lot of ammunition. Again, he understands how U.S. politics works. He's got a lot of his assets there in the U.S. Like he starts this war, and the U.S. hesitates to support him. The screaming and howling that will take place, and the mega donors are gonna be real angry and stop. Maybe the flow of money to Kamala Harris will stop. They all know that. He knows that, right? Netanyahu knows that. So it seems to me that this is the time. But who knows? He might not be able to pull it off now. The Iranians seem to be reluctant to help him out at this point, but they may just again they may retaliate sooner rather than later, and we may have our war.
Yeah, it's just such a crazy situation that we're in with Israel that the U.S. has the leash on Israel, but we won't pull it. We won't rein them in. And
Well, it's kind of like Israel has a leash on us too. I mean, again, it's just like
yeah, I guess
the
so.
donors and the media assets and so on and so forth, which is a crazy situation. I don't think it's ever existed before in history, but that's what we're looking at.
Okay, well, Dad, maybe we can stop here, end it a little bit earlier,
Right,
unless
it's late.
unless there's any updates you want to give from the Russia side, and we can save that for
Yeah, we could
Friday.
save it. It's kind of late here in St. Petersburg, and your mother and sister, I think, went to.
Okay, yeah,
Let's.
I can only get so depressed, so
Yeah, sorry
we'll
about
stop
that, but
here. Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, Have a good day or good night.
Okay.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.